Welcome to the Unpacking Sunday podcast, where we take a deeper look at what God is speaking to you, to our church, and to the world around us. So grab a coffee, sit back, and let's unpack it together. Hi, Mike.
Luke, what is up?
How are you, sir?
This is crazy that we're recording a podcast, actually.
Yeah, because you are where right now?
I am in Thailand,
Right,
in
yeah.
Pattaya. Yeah.
That's right. And
I'm
I'm in
actually
my
standing
office.
I showed you a photo a second ago.
Yeah.
I'm standing at the Pattaya City Hall right now.
Okay. Wow. Amazing.
Yeah, pretty fun.
That is really cool. And you guys were doing some worship there, and you were on a prayer walk this morning, so...
We went and prayed over Soi 6, which is like the big red light district of Pattaya, one of the most densely populated ones. So I took the guys from our team down to walk Soi 6 because it's closed right now. So none of the bars are open. So it's a good time for the guys to go there.
Oh,
and
good.
see
I
what
see
it's
what you
about
mean. Yeah,
without
good.
all the girls being there.
Right.
And then, but we are leading worship on Soi 6 tomorrow. So
Okay. Wow.
that'll be fun. And then this morning we did some worship on the roof of City Hall, and we got to pray for the deputy mayor of the city. So that was fun. Yeah.
That is so fun. Sounds like you guys are having a good time. It's probably anything with Linda is like go, 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 right? Feet on the floor, you're running the whole time.
Right. Linda's not with us today. She came to Pattaya with us yesterday, and then she went home. So she's coming back. Like, she lives in Bangkok, so she'll be back tomorrow.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Cool.
So we're just on our own today.
And have you had a chance to have any fun food or anything yet? What are some highlights that way?
Well, praise the Lord. I was here like 8 hours before the team was. So you know me. That means I'm going to cram in as much as I can possibly cram in.
For sure.
So I wanted to like go see the Gulf of Thailand. That was like super disappointing because in Bangkok, there's literally no beaches. So I just stood on a board on the water pretty much.
Okay.
But then nearby, I got chased by a pack of wild dogs, but that led me to a great coffee shop.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, so that was awesome. And then after coffee, I found this amazing like seaside seafood restaurant, which was unbelievable food. So that was like maybe my favorite food so far.
That's really fun. That's awesome. Well,
but the highlight has been seeing Linda. Like, Linda is such a gem.
She really is.
Yeah. So, and the team's having fun.
In my office, I have a image that she gave me right here on the wall. So whenever I look at it, I think of Linda. So that's great.
Yeah, she's the best.
Yeah,
she's the best.
That's awesome. Awesome. Well, let's unpack this last Sunday. Pastor Reg spoke on our continuing saga of Romans, and are we still in 14, or did we move on to 15 this week?
We just wrapped up 14. I think that's what Reg did.
Right. Yeah. He really pulled it all together there, because it seems like we've been kind of hitting on the same themes for the last like month. But I think there's beauty in that, because sometimes it takes lingering on these moments to really kind of let it sink in. So that's really good.
Well, if you're anything like me, it takes like a few reminders before you actually do something.
That's right.
Yeah,
sure. So Reg, I think he really he just really pointed it back to and asked that question, like, how do we really do this church thing, and it not just be like a novelty church thing? Right. It's like this idea of really doing life together, and and really like caring for each other in times when we need it, as opposed to it just being like something we say we do, and how unity is like the basis of that, the foundation of that. I was at an event recently, and I connected with a pastor who I've met in years past, and it's just kind of funny because there's these pastors that you'll connect with, these people who are kind of leaders or whatever, and he's such a kind, genuine guy. Like, when he says hello to you, you feel like, oh, you're really, really warm and kind. But I also feel like I have a maximum of 10 seconds of his time. You know what I mean? Like, one of those people where it's like, hey, how are you? And it's like, how are things? And it's like, really good. It's like, great. Okay, I'll see you later. Like that kind of thing. Like, it's and it's like, it's one of those things where it's like, I really buy into the fact that you are genuine and you're kind, but at the same time, I feel like I have to blurt out a couple of things in my life because I know you're walking away already. You know what I mean? Like that
Right,
kind of thing.
right.
And
Oh,
it's like,
yeah.
and it's one of those, it's like, I don't want to throw anybody under the bus and it's like, and he's a wonderful person, but at the same point, I'm like, that isn't genuine. That isn't authentic. Look me in the eyes and
Yeah.
really care about the question you just asked. You just asked it because that's a role that you play, and like that kind of thing. That's a
Right.
personality and a mechanism for survival that you've put on. But and it's like how can we avoid being that? How can we to
Yeah.
each other at church when someone says I'm not doing well
Hmm.
as opposed to I'm fine, right? It's like
Yeah.
what are we
Yeah.
willing to in the name of Jesus, in the name of church, and of unity, how can we, shift to something that's realistic and God talks about, going that extra mile or giving the shirt off of our back or, like,
Yeah.
that sort of thing. And it's like, that is so counter, I think, of how people do kind of approach this thing of like,
Right.
so yeah. What are your thoughts on that?
I think Reg brought it in for us really well when I think he used that passage in Philippians at the end
Mm.
about putting each other's needs above our own. And he was
Hmm.
quite honest. He said like he wishes he could just take that out of the Bible. Like that's a hard thing to do
Right.
in a
Right. Yeah.
genuine
If
way.
there's
But even like that's what you're talking about, Luke, is like
Yeah.
if like to stop and listen to somebody and like, oh, you might have a need, and even though I'm busy or I need to be somewhere, like, what if I put your need in, even just for a few minutes, above my own? I think that could really change the church, actually.
I think so too. And it's like I think people are scared because it requires, it doesn't require as much, but there is the possibility of things to get, to go really deep, right? So,
And it's messy, messy.
yeah,
It's
for
very
sure.
messy.
For sure.
Yeah,
And often uncomfortable and awkward, but
yeah,
yeah. So, yeah, that's but I agree. Reg, he nailed it home for us at the end of chapter 14 here. And I just really talked about how and he said one phrase at the beginning of the verse about just how like unit like in in the essentials we need unity, and then
right.
things fall under there, but really what it comes down to is that um are we truly unified, and what does that look like, and so
Yes,
um yeah, I was really encouraged about what he said too in his moment of honesty, just talking about how I know we all know that Reg is kind of everywhere all the time, and how he actually is hearing people saying like they're kind of baffled by where we're at as a church, because I think we're kind of
right.
breaking rules a bit. But I think it's kind of fun to have a little bit of a 30,000 foot view of like how we're doing, and how we've been in Romans and for almost 2 years now. Is that it?
Right. Yeah. I know. More than 2 years.
More than 2 years, right?
Yeah.
And but like I think like it's something there's something important to that where it's easy to think that it isn't making a significant difference for us really just kind of fine combing through this and really allowing it to marinate in our church, and and I think this unity thing it's an easy thing to kind of shelf and to put like like that was another sermon that was encouraging and impactful, but
Right.
yeah, I think at the same point it's one of the biggest points that Jesus makes, and it
Yeah.
really kind of speaks to this idea of humility and like being the body of Christ, and if we're not in unity, the body doesn't work properly. So
Yeah. And
yeah.
it's an intentional choice that we have to make all the time. Like we both have had this, like, there are so many times where it would be easier, and maybe we would even sometimes be justified in being offended at people or thinking that we're handling something better than them, or when it comes to a life of liberty, like where we would like don't really want to have to care about what other people are doing and how they're living this all out. So
Hmm.
there's an intentional choice of laying myself down for my
Hmm.
brother and my sister, and like remembering, like Paul says a few times in this last chapter that we read, is like we don't live for ourselves alone. Everything that we do has an effect on the people around us, and ultimately we live for God. And
Mm-hmm.
so there needs to be this intentional choice that I'm making, even in the midst of differences, and I think even more importantly in the midst of offense as well, that we would lay ourselves down for the good of the body.
Mm-hmm.
I think that that's like so important. Actually, I've been really encouraged, like while we've been here, like just see in Thailand, like seeing all these different churches and parachurches and different organizations who would otherwise not have much to do with each other, all come together for the common cause of just like making Jesus known in a dark place, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
if we could do that, if we could be even in our own body at Cariboo Road, like
Mm-hmm.
what would it look like if I set aside like what I wish it was or how I think it should be or whatever, and I just get on mission with my brothers and sisters for like pursuing Jesus with my whole life and helping other people to do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like that would be, it would be kind of wild. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I think some people would have a lot less to talk about overall in their
Yeah,
lives.
it's
Yeah.
true. It's so true.
But,
Yeah, what are some
uh,
like it seems like it's almost like this thing of like in our church culture and in this like 10-second conversation going kind of circling back to, not to say that people in our church are like that, but that kind of mentality of in church of like, hey, I care about what you say but I actually kind of don't, that kind of thing is like,
right.
um what are some like first steps that we can do to kind of like, you know test the waters, or like to kind of practically make this part of what we do? What is a way that I guess, yeah, what is a way that we can just, in individual conversations or people in our church, or reaching out to something, what are a couple things that you can do to kind of start for a person who's like, I want to live my life like that but I don't really know how, I don't know what to do, I want to be the church.
Yeah.
What do you think? What are some thoughts
Sure.
on that?
My first thing is like what we were just saying, like keeping like mission and purpose at the front of your mind. Like
Mm,
Luke, you and I have even had conversations that have been challenging and like where we would naturally, because we're gifted in different ways and have different temperaments and personalities, we would walk it out different. But
mm-hmm,
then when we come back to this reminder that like, oh wait, we're on this mission together,
mm-hmm,
then then everything else falls into its rightful place of
mm-hmm,
like, and you come to a place where you can celebrate people's differences
mm-hmm,
when
totally.
you do that, because like Luke's gonna do tons of awesome things that I can't do, don't want to do, will
Mm-hmm,
never be gifted enough to do, right? And the other way around, right? And I've seen that even like I was talking to someone here about like a transition in a foundation that they run, and like the new director is so different than the
wow,
old director, but
right.
it has come, that came with years of challenges, but
Mm-hmm,
then also it has come now with like quite incredible growth for the foundation, because there's a new leader who's leaning into their skill set, right? And they're maybe more business oriented, or they're doing it a bit different than before. And so even debriefing with the team, we were just talking about that. Imagine if, like, even you're at church, or in our context right now this week, like you're on a mission trip.
mm-hmm,
Imagine if you would just like allow yourself to function in your gifting, right? And I don't need to compare to you, and I don't need to do it the way you do it. And of course, we're gonna do it respectfully, and we're gonna
mm-hmm,
like be unified. That's the whole point of this.
mm-hmm,
But imagine if instead of being like upset because Mike did it like that,
right,
if I just said, "Wow, I'm so thankful to
right.
have." For this example, I'm so thankful to have Mike, or I'm so thankful to have Luke, because I would have never thought of that, or I would have never gone there. And so I think like for me, that's the first thing, and that can like trickle down into like the conversations that we have
Right.
in our churches as well.
Mm-hmm.
Even I think often we don't check in with people because, to be honest, we actually don't care, or it's going to be difficult because people are different from us.
Yeah. Or we're so
And
caught
so
up in
I,
our own stuff, you know?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I've caught
Yeah.
myself like, you kind of know that, oh, this is going to be a long conversation, or this is going to be a hard conversation, or I don't agree with what they're about to say, so I'm just not going to go there.
Mm,
But if it's like, oh, but actually, I even just in this moment, I'm reminded by that verse from chapter 14 of Romans as well, where it's like, how can you destroy someone for whom Jesus died? Or like even like how can I not care for my brother or sister that Jesus died for? And I can't even take a minute to just genuinely like ask them how they're doing or like dive a bit deeper into the disagreement that we have about what worship song we should sing or something like that, you know?
Right.
So I think yeah,
Yeah, I think there's something to be said too about like God's sovereignty and where he and how he places us too. Using us as an
right,
example. It's so easy to fall into the mindset of like how you and we work together here at the church. But
right,
it's like if we if you forget or don't take into consideration, it's like the Lord brought us together.
right,
And
yeah,
it's easy to forget that he's actually designed something in the way that I work and the way that you work, and that actually bleeds into the way of the church too. We often like to think, well, we're going to check out this church, or I'm in this church for this season, but it's like, no, God has brought you here. He's placed you
right,
here. He's in his grace and in his patience, he's waiting for you to get on board so that he can, you know, do this beautiful mosaic of church and use our giftings. But so often we're caught up in these minuscule things that won't allow for us, or fear, we're afraid of diving in or engaging at a heart level, or really kind of trying to plugging into community or whatever. And it's like God is waiting for us to step into our own giftings so that he can
right,
use you where he's placed you. And so I think we
yes,
are so often individualistic that we completely take God's sovereignty out of where we're at
right,
in church or whatever too.
yeah,
And it's like we're hindering his work if we aren't willing to, step into a place of humility to say, okay, like how can I serve your church today? Even if
right,
it's ministering on a conversation, if it's leading worship from the back, if it's, like that kind of thing, if it's serving in kids'
yeah,
church, it's like, if we all were able to kind of adjust our mindset from this is where I go to church as to opposed to this is a season where God has me at this church, I think
right.
huge things would change the fabric of how we do things too.
Yeah, that's a good word. And
Yeah.
it reminds me of, we've said it a few times in the series. It's not about uniformity. It's not about
No.
looking the same.
No.
It's about unity, that we're
Yeah.
on mission and we've caught the vision.
Hmm.
And like, I mean, we talked about, I think I was chatting with the intensive even just about what does humility look like? And
Yeah.
like so often we think that humility means like thinking poorly or lowly of ourselves. But I had this professor who said, and I love this definition, like humility is just seeing yourself how God sees you. So like God sees you as broken, but he also sees you as gifted and loved and redeemed. Right. And so we don't
Yeah.
only have to think lowly and like I have nothing to offer and that's being humble. That's not being humble. That's false humility. So
Yeah.
if we walked in real humility, we would understand things like what we're talking about. Like,
Right.
hey, I don't have everything to offer. I can't offer everything to the church or to my job or to my family, but God has placed people around me. And if I'm walking in obedience to him, yeah, it's God's sovereignty that the body would work together, right? And if
Yeah.
I just function in humility, stepping in where I can and letting others step in where they can,
Yeah.
like we would see really awesome things in the church.
I agree. 100%. Yeah, I think so. Let's stop hindering God's work by our own
Hmm.
preferences. You know?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Okay, that's a good one. That's
And I
good.
have a lot of preferences, so I got to work on that one. Yeah.
Oh, I
Yeah.
feel that too. I feel it. I
Yeah.
feel it.
Yeah.
Okay, man. Well, you know what? You're maybe we should kind of shut her down there. Any other thoughts before you go? Is there a way that we
No,
can
I
pray
miss
for
you
you?
guys.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we
Yeah. Yeah.
miss
If
you too.
you're listening, yeah, pray for us. We are going to, like, I mean, I've shared about Patia to the church. So, I
Mhm.
mean, we're going to lead worship in some really fascinating places in the next couple days. And then when we go to Bangkok, we'll be like ministering in the slums and stuff. So keep us in prayer.
Yeah.
I mean, we sent
Yeah.
out that guide so you guys can pray like in real time with us.
Sweet.
So
I love
yeah,
it.
keep it up. Thanks for praying with us.
Yeah.
I
No,
miss
that's
you
good.
guys. Yeah, I miss being there.
Miss you too, man. Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
not the same when you're not around.
Yeah, it's quiet. It's
Yeah.
quieter here. Yeah.
A little more chill, I
Yeah.
guess, but
Right. Yeah.
okay, well, love you, Mike. I hope you have
Okay.
a wonderful rest of your day, and we're gonna do the next week's episode this kind of style again. So, and then we'll be back in the
Yes, we'll
studio.
try to get it out earlier next week, like at
Yeah,
the
you
proper
guys,
time.
but appreciate
Yeah.
you, brother, and
Okay, we'll see you
yeah,
soon.
send my love to the rest of the
Okay.
team.
Yes, I will.
Okay, church.
Okay.
Bye.
Okay. See you.
Unpacking Sunday is a podcast of Cariboo Road Christian Fellowship Church. If you're interested in more information, please check out our website at www.crcfchurch.com.